Welcome to Beyond the School Gate. For those of you who are new around here, my name is Ruth, and this podcast aims to share the varied experiences of women in leadership, to talk about what we do beyond the school gate, the good, the bad, and the funny.
I am the Chief Executive of a new charity called Babyzone. Babyzone is an early years charity which provides spaces and activities for parents with their children to come along and do together for free in the community. So super exciting, hoping to change the world. Early years is like a really, really, really big passion of mine because I just think it's so important. But it's also so many things that you can do to support parents. And Babyzone is trying to do that in a really non-traditional way. So by saying, okay, well, everyone does this, but why? Like, is that the right thing to do? And going back to the parents and what's right for the parents. And, you know, part of it is obviously attracting lower income families who don't have the resources to go to, you know, classes, you know, to go to stay in plays and to cafes and things like that. And that was a really big part of our approach, is that everything is designed for low income families, but it's open to all, because you know, we don't want to be stigmatized. We don't want it to be a place that you go because, you know, you don't have very much money. You know, also a community isn't made up of just low income families, you know, it's everyone. So it has to be open up to everyone in the community, but also because you never really know anyone's circumstances. And you don't know what someone might be suffering from, or the community they might need, or the support they might need. So that's basically what we're doing. We were thought up in kind of 2018, 2019 by the chair and chief executive at Future Youth Zone, which is one of the on-side youth zones. And on-side youth zones are like the most amazing things you've ever seen. And I wish there'd been them when I was a kid. Are like world-class, just amazing spaces for young people. So they have like climbing walls and boxing gyms and recording studios and art rooms and football pitches and everything you can imagine. And they're there for young people in the community. So I think there's like 15 at the moment. There's lots and lots more in place to be built. And they're empty during the day because the young people are at school.
Yeah.
So the thought was, well, why don't we use the space for babies?
Love that.
The opportunity. And so it's piloted in 2019, and a lot of people said you'll only get like 30 families. And within weeks, there was 150 families a week.
Wow.
And so it's just amazing that the need is there, but the space is just brilliant. And I just, it's a great place to invite parents into. So so basically around 2019 in Barking and Dagenham and Croydon, and then obviously shut for the pandemic. And I joined in June 2021 to get it kind of set up from the pandemic. And then took us through to becoming a charity in March 2022.
Wow, that's amazing.
Like, 9 months old or something.
Wow. That's wild. I love when you were talking about the different people's situations as well. I think one of the things that we've had loads of conversations about, everybody has something to add, right? And I think if you looked at us on paper, we probably wouldn't be friends. Like it doesn't make sense. Like our backgrounds, our experiences just wouldn't make sense. But it works. I think there's so much that you get out of engaging with people that traditionally you wouldn't engage with in your everyday life. Like learning happens in every type of place with different people, different experiences, and different community groups. I think that's quite magical that you provide that opportunity for people to connect with somebody that they wouldn't traditionally.
And it is just so important that you have a mix of people, and you know, it's self-selecting, but as long as we're making sure that we're doing everything right, then you know, the mix of people that is in the community, you know, is there, and we'll be there for the people who need us the most. And you look around, and you know, there's so little on offer for mums and dads with you know, little children. You know, really, like there's not enough, and there's not enough that's free, there's not enough that's cheap, you know, and it really needs to be accessible. You need to go, what are the things that are stopping people coming to this stuff? Is it that they don't think it's for them? Isn't it they just don't know about it? Is it the
Mhm.
cost? Is it the fact that actually for a lot of things you have to, you know, when I went to, local children's centre, you have to do like 2 sides of A4 on like personal details.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Why?
we don't do that. We take a postcode when they leave, and that's it. And it's all about
Mm.
creating a really welcoming, friendly environment from the moment you step through the door. Like there's nothing to stop you walking through that door and feeling like you belong. And
Mhm.
that's the aim, is that it's inclusive, it's
Mm.
welcoming, and it's non-judgmental. I think as a parent and for parents, that's so important.
When I was pregnant with my daughter, it I didn't go to any maternity. You know, they do like the maternity groups, like getting ready, and you get to meet other mums and make friends. I remember I walked in once, and then I don't know where Ahmed was, probably at college or something, or working one of his million jobs. And I went, and I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna go on my own." And I walked in, and without, I don't want to sound judgmental, it was white middle class women with their husbands that were probably about 35, and I was there on my own with my South London accent, my brown face, on my own. That stereotypical, which I'm assuming, I'm again projecting on other people, but I'm assuming when I walked in, it is, you're different. You're different to the group. And then I just kind of just walked back out and was like, nah, this is not for me. And probably at 17, it probably was exactly where I should have been, maybe more than anybody else, because I'm a freaking child having a child. But I just felt it wasn't accessible for me. Like, it didn't feel like a welcoming environment. I felt like I was being judged, or like there was a level of, and I just thought, no, this is not for me. And then I didn't engage. So when you're talking now, I'm thinking, wow, like when I had her, I did end up engaging in like mum and baby group, but that was through the church because my mum was heavily involved in the church. But if I didn't
Mm,
have that connection, there would have been nothing, because either I felt people were judging me, or there was a level of judgment. Um,
yeah.
and it just wouldn't have felt, and cost as well. So the fact that this is a space that is welcoming to everybody, no cost, like that's life changing for some people. And we know social isolation outside, even outside of COVID, when you're maybe having your first child and your life looks a certain way, and then it looks different, and your friends may not be doing, like, I remember my friends weren't having babies when I was having babies, so the level of isolation you feel like you're on your own. So what an amazing space for people to go and be able to connect and learn from other people as well.
Mm. Yeah, and I think like part of what we're about is like the parent and the child really like it's a space for them to grow together. It's
Mm,
about giving the parents the kind of the agency and the tools and the confidence to be the parent that, a child needs. And that's not saying they're not already, because they're
mm,
definitely it's in them. And it's about, the child getting that socialization. My child definitely needed socialization after 9 months of lockdown. It's that
yeah.
stuff where, I see that difference, like you see the kids that, and the parents walking, they're like, oh God, they haven't really seen anyone before,
Mm,
those parents have walked through the door and had those conversations with us, and you're like, they'll be fine, like they will be fine,
mhm.
and I can assure them mine was fine, and
Yeah. Yeah.
really quickly, and they do. But those children need those experiences as much as the parents need the community and the support.
Mhm,
And it's so important to us that that's a space for parents to not feel judged and not feel like they're being taught parenting or anything like that. Like they can come to classes, like we do
mm,
classes, we've got support. We've got like the kind of sensory classes and all of that stuff, activities, toddler dancing, reading fairies, mini professors. We've got, dinky medics like first aid, and it's really awesome. There's so much you can do, but it's not teaching them parenting. It's
mm,
giving them activities and experiences where they get to hang out together and chat together and sing together and dance together, and all that stuff is just so important. It's about being treated like the parent that you are, like the grown up that you are,
yeah.
and just given that experience with your child, and it's just so important, and the respect there is what's
Mhm.
absolutely fundamental and critical.
So moving to a CEO role, like that's a jump. That's a big
Yeah,
move.
that's a jump.
First of all, congratulations. Like that's amazing.
Thank you.
What's been the biggest learning curve for you, and what are the goals that you have for Babyzone?
There's a couple of things that I think in terms of learning curve. So I've also quite crazily in 2019, before I got pregnant, I started a diploma in voluntary sector management because I was like, I'm not pregnant. I need something else to do with my life. I didn't actually finish year one because my due date was sandwiched between two essay deadlines. So they were like, probably should defer this year. The next year, I just started a new job. So I was like, I probably should defer this year. So I've spent like the last, finished in end of October. So 5 months of this year being like, what the hell am I doing trying to do all of this all at once? Including an actual all-nighter, which I don't think I did at university. But, there is a point when you go, oh, the aeroplanes have started going back overhead. I didn't realise they'd stopped. That's
Yeah,
the start
right.
time in the early hours. But yeah, because I've been doing this diploma, when I set out to do it, one of my goals was to become a CEO, but it was like a long-term goal.
Mm,
Um, and but a lot of like this module that I had to the redo was about leadership. And I think a lot of when I was thinking about what it takes to be a leader and how do I get there, is I just kind of assumed there was this like thing about being a leader, this quality, this particular quality that I needed to become a leader, and how was I ever going to get it, and who was I going to learn it from and stuff. And I think now my reflection is it's a lot of things. Like
mm,
I think it's underpinned by confidence, and I think it's underpinned by knowing the kind of leader you want to be and working towards being that leader. So there was one of the lectures I had was really usefully, they brought in like lots of different charity leaders to hear from, and one of the leaders talked about leading with love,
mm,
and it was such a nice way of putting a kind of, this is the person I am, so this is how I'm going to lead, rather than this is what leadership looks like and therefore I've got to do it that way. And
mhm,
so I think my biggest learning curve is working out the kind of leader I am and also the one I want to be. And I think there's something about building my confidence. It's about having confidence in myself. It's about having confidence in what I know about leadership. And it is, and I do think that's a really big part of it.
mhm.
Lots of different leaders. And I think it fundamentally comes down, if you've got to make loads of decisions, where's your confidence? Like, do you understand this and this? Do you know enough with enough confidence to make a decision about this, or to say, well, actually, if you thought about doing it this way and coach someone who's doing it, it's only because you have the confidence and some knowledge about things, and the confidence in your team,
Mhm.
confidence if you've got the right people behind you, and the right, if you've got the right board there that you can talk to. The other thing that I've taken away is, and this is one of the things I've learned a lot from the chair of Babyzone, who has a business where they support startup tech companies and they invest in them and kind of get them off the ground, is about being confident that you're learning as you go, and you learn as long as you learn from your mistakes. Like, that's what's most important, and not
Yeah.
to go, okay, well, that didn't work out, well, then everything's failed and wrong, but go,
Mhm.
well, that didn't work out, but what can we learn and make better? And that's been also like a really big learning curve, because I think sometimes I've had managers who haven't had the confidence to be okay to learn from their mistakes, and
Okay.
haven't had the confidence to support me to learn through my mistakes.
Mhm.
Um, and I think that's a pretty awesome thing, to be like, yeah, okay, it didn't work. We'll try something different. We'll improve that. Okay, this
Mhm.
went wrong because of this thing, so we're going to change it. And I think that's been a big learning curve, and a nice one to have. Like, you're not written off because of one mistake. You're
Right.
not, nothing's ended because you've made this mistake, or you don't know that thing, or you haven't delivered that on time. As long as you can learn from it, and
Mhm.
obviously things that obviously are not okay and you can't come back
Yeah.
from,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
quite horrific things, but we're
Mhm.
not about that stuff, but it is about how you learn from it and take it forward and grow.
I love that, because sometimes you do look at, especially like as you're developing as a manager and early on, you can look at other people and be like, oh, they're a leader. Leadership looks like this. I have to be like that. But then that could be perceived as you being inauthentic, because
Yeah.
you're this way, but you're trying to be how that person is. And actually, that's for me a powerful message for any younger women that are thinking, or any woman that's thinking about going into a leadership position, is you don't have to be the same as that person. And how you do leadership is just as valuable. It's just different, and different styles will gel with different people. I like that, because it feels, as you were talking, the words being kind to ourselves just kept coming into my head.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I think, maybe if I was going into a CEO role in a much larger charity that was focused on a different topic,
Mm-hmm.
maybe that would look differently.
Mm,
But as it is, I've come in and started a charity that's focused on parents and children, and so it kind of works at the moment. Maybe, I think leadership probably will change with my confidence, my experience as the organization grows,
mm-hmm.
as if I ever decide to leave, which at the moment obviously would be a really, really awful thing to do. Like, as in, I don't kind of hope leaving it behind. It feels like another child.
Oh.
But I think it has to be something that changes and flexes as things go. And you're right, like, as long as you're being kind to yourself and authentic to yourself,
Mhm.
then, like, I don't think could probably go wrong. But I think the minute you start trying to be someone else is
Yeah.
you make it about a million times harder on yourself.
And what are your goals for Babyzone over the next 5 years? If you had a
Mm.
crystal ball or a magic wand, and what would it look like
So
in 5 years?
if I had a magic wand, we'd have a lot of funding. Hint, hint
Yeah.
to anyone out there with millions, billions.
So if, on that though, if somebody did
Mm.
want to donate or fund Babyzone, how would they
Mhm.
do that? I think now's a good opportunity for us to put
Yeah,
that
yeah.
message out there.
So go to our website, which is
Yep.
babyzone.org.uk, and go there, and there's a donate button. So
Perfect.
anything would be awesome. Um, so everything's funding driven, right? We're in the charity sector. We're a new charity. It's really important. Um, we love to open Babyzone anywhere that families needed us. So I think initially we'd love to open them through Youth Zone network. They're awesome spaces, and very easy to set up a baby zone. I mean, it's easier to set up a baby zone in the Youth Zone. But that we need money to do that. So that's the kind of, there's 15 of those. I don't think we'll
Okay.
probably won't get there in 5 years. We could be somewhere near it. But there's also the kind of, as in, we will get there if someone gives us money. Hint, hint again.
Mm.
Um, but I think there's something about saying this Babyzone model works. Like, we're proving that at the moment. We want to prove it in more places. But how do we show other people that are also doing similar things that if you take certain elements of Babyzone, that you too can make it work? And then you kind of get this economy of scale. Like, how do you make sure your children's centres are being really welcoming? And I'm not saying they're not at the moment, but how do you make sure that everyone out there that's delivering the same things understands that if Babyzone works for these reasons, what are the things you can pick up and take? So it's not just about us having to get scale of reaching every family in the UK, because that's a really big job that'll
Mhm.
cost a lot. But there's so much existing provision that if we're doing things that are different and they're really successful, then why couldn't other people? So it's kind of that two-pronged model of, we want to do more ourselves, but we also want to show how we do what we do, and say, come on, learn from us. Like, we haven't got everything right. We're
Mhm.
definitely a lot of learning and a lot of thinking and understanding and listening to our parents and our partners and everything, and mostly to our parents. But how do we want to keep learning, but we also want to share our learning. And I think that's just, that's why it's so important that we have this kind of dual model of, we deliver and then we influence for the change that we want to see.
And as when I put this episode out, I'll definitely put a link to your website, just so
Thank
if
you.
anybody does want to go on and make a donation. It sounds like you guys are doing some awesome work, and yeah,
Thank you.
it's tough, isn't it? It's tough when the funding streams are just so
Yeah.
small in this space.
Yeah.
Um, The final question before we finish up is, if you
Yeah.
had one message for your younger self, what would that be?
I mean, there's like a million things you'd go back and say, like your exams are important, but they're also not. You know, there's all that stuff that you can say. But I think there'd be something about being more just like chill out. Like, I don't think I
Mm,
was a particularly anxious child, but I think I was quite introverted.
mm,
Um, and I think it took and I don't know what it took, but you know, I've definitely become more confident as I've got older. And
mhm.
especially, you know, when I got into my 30s and now I'm in my 40s, you know, I've become more confident. And I think, you know, and that's not going to change. Like I couldn't go back to my younger self and tell them to be more confident because that's not going to happen. But I think I could have been more like less introspective and introverted. I think I could have been a bit more like, just know what, just you don't sweat the small stuff. And I think that's probably what a lot of people would tell their younger selves, but everything feels big when you're young.
Yeah, it does,
Um,
doesn't
so you know, I'm not sure my younger self would listen to me. But you know,
it?
everything is going to be okay. You just kind of, you know, relax and don't sweat it, and it will be okay because you know it will be, and you'll get there. And I think that's probably what I tell myself.
Nice, I like it. Thank you. Oh, well, thank
Thank
you so
you.
much. And once again, just remind our listeners of your website where they can go and donate.
Thank you very much.
Perfect. Thank you. It's been great having you
Thank
on the
you.
podcast.
Thank you for having me.